And let's look at Reform UK leader, I should say, Nigel Farage. He's denying claims that he's planning some kind of election pact with the Conservatives, despite some donors saying that he's told them a deal with the Tories is inevitable. So reports suggest that he's floated everything from cooperation to a full mega party merger. But Farage insists he'd only ever consider a reverse takeover, saying he won't do a deal with a party he does not trust. Mia, what do you make of this? Do you think that there will be a deal to come?
Yeah, look, I've said this before, Farage is an incredible leader. He's a once-in-a-generation talent. He's incredibly unique, and he has achieved something that I don't think anyone expected him to achieve in the first place. But there is a problem here about continuing the momentum, and there are some administrative challenges that Farage, realistically, he does have to face, and that is such as running good, solid candidates in all the seats that he needs to put candidates in. I think that's going to be a real challenge for him, and that's why I think he has made these statements about absorbing people who want to defect from the Tory party. He's willing to take them on, and I can understand why he's saying that, because he does need to address those administrative challenges. However, I think it would be a real shame if that deal was to go any further than that. I do not think Reform should do any kind of deal with the Tories, because realistically, the Tories are still lost at sea. They have no idea what they stand for. They have no idea what they're doing. And it shows a real lesson, especially for the Liberal Party here in Australia, that when you're a party who has a message for everyone, you have a message for no one. We saw the Tories triumph net zero. They refused to crack down on immigration. They did nothing to solve the cost of living crisis. And as a result, they completely lost their base. And I think we're seeing the same problem here happen in Australia, where people want a leader who stands for something and stands for them, and that's Farage. So I think Farage should continue what he's doing. He needs to sort out those logistics, but I don't think he should do a deal with the Tories.
Finally, while we're speaking about what's happening in Europe, Vladimir Putin says that Russia doesn't want a war with Europe, but claims it's ready if European powers choose one. He's accused EU leaders of blocking Trump's attempts to end the war in Ukraine, saying they've pushed proposals they know Moscow would reject, just so they can paint Russia as unwilling to talk. Putin also says Europe has locked itself out of peace talks by cutting off direct contact with the Kremlin. Let's take a listen to him.
We're not planning to go to war with Europe. I have already spoken about this 100 times. But if Europe suddenly wants to go to war with us and starts, we're ready right now.
Mia, can I get your assessment?
Well, look, Putin says a lot of things all the time. I'm not sure. He's a bit of the boy who cries wolf, wolf, so it's hard to know what we can believe that comes out of his mouth there. But it does raise an important question. Russia's ready. Is Europe ready to defend itself? Absolutely not. The UK is certainly not ready to defend itself. Australia is certainly not ready to defend itself if a war was to come across our shores. In fact, in Australia, we have never been less prepared for a conflict since World War II, and that's extremely worrying. And we're seeing with these peace talks that, well, Trump, first of all, should absolutely be congratulated for at least trying to achieve some kind of peace deal here. He's the only one actually doing anything. We've got Europe is full of these weak leaders who sit there criticising everyone else, but they refuse to sort out what's happening in their own backyards. So they're sitting back, they're letting Trump carry the heavy load here. And I think there is some kind of presumption that if there was a conflict to break out, that Trump would once again carry the heavy load with everyone's defence systems. Well, that's just not true, because Trump's made it pretty clear that everyone needs to start pulling their weight when it comes to defence. And in Europe, there just seems a complete lack of motivation to do so, and that is very, very terrifying.
Mia, we have to talk about this book on Daniel Andrews. This new book out this week takes aim at the social and economic fallout of Australia's most controversial premier, the dark legacy of Daniel Andrews. It argues the former Victorian premier reshaped the state through centralised power, ideological decision-making and sweeping policy overreach 100%, also weakening democratic norms, blowing out debt and eroding basic freedoms. I mean, this really couldn't be a more important book, or an important look at Daniel Andrews, and certainly a fair bit of damage that he caused Victoria, caused Australia. Spent plenty of press conferences with Daniel Andrews back in 2020. Mia, can you give us a sense of this book and what it looks into?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it's a topic that I think very many Victorians want to leave behind them. We don't like talking about Daniel Andrews. If it was up to us, we'd prefer to never mention his name again. But the unfortunate reality is that whilst he's not Premier, Daniel Andrews still rules the lives of many Victorians. And that's due to his legacy that he left from his time running this dictatorship across the state. And we launched this book at an IPA event last night. Peter Credlin did a fantastic job launching the book for us. And the unfortunate reality is that so many people still are affected by the decisions that were made by Daniel Andrews. He really did corrupt every single sector of the state, whether that was the public service, whether that was giving his mates jobs in the public service, whether that was the complete control he had over the media. Daniel Andrews really did run this state like a dictator, and many people came to this realization during the pandemic that that's who he was. But the reality is that the pandemic didn't create Daniel Andrews. It just revealed who he truly is, and the power that he set up behind the scenes in the years building up to the pandemic. That is an incredibly important story to tell, because in order to unravel all the damage he's done, we have to understand how we got there, so we can just see the extent of how much of that system is rotten and how much of it needs to be reformed.
Yeah, no, it's so important. You know, I speak to people in Melbourne all the time, whether it's parents with young children, small business owners, still really feeling the impacts because of Daniel Andrews' decision making. Mia Schlicht, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.